In this special guest episode of Meet the Plug, I talk with Thomas, who is a co-founder of Greyd.Suite, which is what he calls a WordPress Swiss Army knife. Thomas is a design whiz himself with over 20 years of professional design experience. That means he's been cooking it up in the kitchen for a long time, y'all.
Every time I come in the kitchen, you in the kitchen, in the goddamn refrigerator, eating up all the food, all the chicken, all the pig feet, all the collard green, all the hog maws. I want to eat some of them chitlin. I love pig feet.
This is why I'm excited to share his story, because his wisdom, lessons, and insights are supported by his invaluable experiences. Without further ado, let's jump into the episode. But first, let me plug in that intro. Meet the plug, meet the plug, meet the plug, meet the plug. I'm your host, Maestro Stevens, the fresh prince of WordPress, and your plug-in for the plugins. On this podcast, we discuss everything in the world of WordPress, trends in tech, and making big business moves. So stay tuned as we deliver you a silver spoon of the juice, straight, no chaser, to you content creators. Now welcome to Meet the Plug WP, where we deal dope tech shit. What is new in your life? Any personal or professional experiences or updates that you want to share with the people about yourself?
Okay, so I'm Thomas, professional web designer for now almost 20 years, working with WordPress. And I worked on smaller clients, bigger clients, up into the enterprise segment, did a lot of stuff in the last couple of years. So what comes into my mind when what were the recent changes? Probably the emerging of AI since ChatGPT was released. First, I thought, okay, crazy, that will be a game changer. Now I'm a bit tired of looking around in the industry, everyone releasing a plugin which can do, like, improves your text skills, build images. Yeah, it's a bit strange currently. But I hope that at some point in the next couple of months, couple of years, AI will be there where it should be.
We are definitely going to talk about a little bit of AI since you've made these points, because I think that it would be helpful to get even more of your thoughts and personal experiences with it. But I would say, for yourself, what would you say, Thomas, makes you, because I know obviously more about you, or a little bit more about you than our audience here. Yeah. But what makes you different, and in the sense of your perspective and how you decide to solve issues or solve problems, whether it's with your company or your or clients or customers?
Okay, that's an interesting one. So I always saw myself as a problem solver, actually, not particularly in the web department or in web development, maybe all over in the creative agency or in the creative industry. So because I do design for now, it's almost 25 years now professionally. And I was always there as a problem solver. So customers, clients, and private as well, friends with some problems, they always come to me and ask for a creative solution. So I think that's my pinpoint. I always come up with some unorthodox ideas how to solve a specific problem. Yeah.
Unorthodox ideas. The word unorthodox is even unorthodox when you think about it. But I love that word. I love that you used it. Can you give the people a little bit more insight by one or two examples of what you mean by unorthodox?
Yeah. So, I mean, let's have a look into my past. Before I started the agency and started Greyd, I was normally a designer in a creative agency and a web agency. And my boss back then tended to be a guy, imagine him like this. So he always tries to sell something to the customer. whether it has a purpose or not. He just want to sell projects and stuff, and sometimes crazy stuff. So he knew that some client wants a project, for example, like a interactive display for a trade fair, and he sold them that without thinking about, okay, what we actually should do or how to accomplish that. And he always, after these meetings, he went back to the office and he sat down to me and talked. So, okay, Thomas, this is my problem. I sold the project already. This is the budget. Make something. Completely crazy. Yeah. So I had to come up with ideas always. And that's one reason why I quit this job, by the way, because he would sell everything, whether it makes sense or not. And I was the guy who always had to come up with an idea to give the whole project some purpose at the end of the day. It was a crazy time. And I did this a couple of years, and then I left because from this guy, I learned how to better not do business. But
Amen.
It get my creative senses up, and my mind was always constantly.
Would you say your mind was, you said it was all over the place, like getting analysis paralysis?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
And do you feel based on that it was pretty much causing chaos for you?
Yeah, I mean, I was the person who had to get rid of the chaos because he made chaos, and I had to clean up after him.
Yeah.
I mean, I think this maybe is a common issue, especially if you work, for example, in smaller agencies with a hyper creative boss, so to say. And you as a designer have to work on projects whether they make sense or make not sense, but you for yourself always try to put some sense into the project. So basically that was my part with that, but it wasn't all negative in a sense, because for me it was a constant challenge to come up with ideas. And that made me the person I am today, because today I always, at every time, I know if I'm stuck in the creative process, I know the methods to keep on working and coming up with new ideas. Because back then, when there was no purpose in some project, I as well had to come up with a solution.
Wow. So you were the person that was really the driving force behind almost the reason and the outcome.
Yeah, kind of.
Because it seemed that, some people will look at your previous boss as being the reason why this idea is coming, but there also needs to be the managerial aspect of things as well as the specialty or the production part. And for your situation, it sounds like, even the person's intention might have been right, could have been wrong, it could have been indifferent. I don't know the details of the intention, but I will say that from a specific perspective of also being a leader and being a business owner, that we can sometimes intend to do something, but that's not really how it's being received. And based on your situation, it sounds like, and elaborate some more, the reason why I said you're the reason and the outcome, because like you said, purpose normally is tied to reasons and whys. But the outcome can be totally different. Yeah, we know why we need to do something and the reasons, but is the reality meeting the logic to get the outcome? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense totally. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, what I learned with that is that with every project I do nowadays, and since I'm self-employed, the first steps, I sit down and talk to the client and try to talk some sense into the client sometimes, because sometimes a client even wants something which doesn't make sense at all, whether it's client based on information about their client base or whatever. But I always want to talk to the client and to ask him specific questions about what you want to achieve For example, if we talk about web projects, so what do you want to achieve with the website? Why do you want to have a website? What is your business purpose? What is your ideal customer? What are your real customers? And we talk about that, and we talk about that for a long time. And out of this discussion, we build basically the project.
Now, you would think that the way you put it, it would be as simple as that. You would think, I think a lot of people who don't know what they don't know and haven't done this before, or just getting started with their freelancing or entrepreneurial or service provider journey, they think that the customer's always right, or they don't understand that sometimes you really have to allow a client to some leeway to understand the thing that they're asking for. It does not meet the outcome that they're looking for, or even let's just keep it real, the budget. The thing they're asking for doesn't even meet the budget, in that sense. So I like that you gave that story in that example, and I appreciate that. And thank you for elaborating more on, the word unorthodox, because I just want to make sure people understand where you are coming from, with that perspective. As far as anything else before we move on to the next segment, is there anything that you are proud of? Let's just take a page out of the personal book or chapter in your life. Is there anything that you are personally excited about, or you're proud of, that just has been something that, has happened to you or your family, or your local community, anything like that, especially since you are across the globe right now? For those who don't know, where are you from specifically, just real quickly?
Okay, so I'm from Germany, and I live currently in Nuremberg. I moved there 10 years ago because my wife got a job at Adidas, the sports company. And since then, I basically work remote from Nuremberg and travel to our office in Munich twice a week. Because I come up with the idea, it's a good idea to open the office in Munich when I'm living in Nuremberg. So I have a 2-hour commute one way each time. Yeah.
So you are across the world right now, and I wanted to make sure that is known to the audience here, because most people listening to this may be based out the United States, even though the audience is global. However, I wanted to notate that because that is the reason why, at least for me, I love talking with people like yourself. And I think people, even though we are spoiled to a huge degree as far as technology is concerned, we do have things like cultural differences and language barriers, or even misunderstandings of how words or phrases are interpreted. And that's the type of stuff that I want to keep a prominent piece of this podcast, because I don't care where anybody is from or why they grew up, they grew up. I care about the fact that they can express themselves, as long as we can all have some type of common denominator. And right now our common denominator is we're using some type of technology to have a conversation, and we're both speaking English. You know what I'm saying? So there are certain common denominators that can help, but they don't have to be the things that we rely on to say, hey, we can communicate effectively. So that's why I just wanted to make sure that the audience understood that, is because Thomas is not from the US. So if there are things that are said that may be said differently, people, you need to learn this stuff and listen, because the world is bigger than you. And that's very, very important. And that's why I'm blessed and grateful to even be talking with Thomas, because he reminds me that the world is bigger than me. Maybe I need to be learning I do need to be learning other languages, not a maybe, and I need to learn other cultural differences. But Thomas, what is your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, there are two sides. So for me personally, everyone is the same at the end of the day. I do not make a difference whether one person is from the US, is from Germany, is from France, is from Switzerland, it's from Brazil. We all are people. We have similar interests, whether one person is into arts, is into web design, is into like a teacher or whatever. We are all people, and we have like common interests, and we should talk about common interests, and we should share our common interests to get to know each other better. Because at the end of the day, I'm always, in Germany, we call it multicultural person. So I have friends with different ethnics from different places. My wife lived a long time in Berlin, which is it's a melting pot of different people from different places. And for me, that was never a problem or never a difference talking to a guy from the US or talking to a guy from India, because for me, what's important is the person itself, nothing else.
That is my word. And speaking of, that's my word. That's a saying or a phrase that we say here in the States for when it says, like, when we're saying, that's it. That's the thing right there. That's what I'm talking about. That's how we like to phrase that. At least that's how I like to phrase it. I know some folks do the same. And that's the reason why I named this next segment, That's My Word.
Say another motherfucking word and this shit is over. And I ain't playing, nigga.
Now, obviously, word being short for WordPress to an extent. And speaking of the word, what is the word on the street when it comes to your particular product, when it comes to your plugin and your suite, Greyd.Suite? What would you say for those people who are new to WordPress, that are content creators, that are solopreneurs, that are people who just want to be able to get in and fit in, but they don't want to always have to give in? And what I mean by that is give into all the technical things that you have to learn and nuances and all this other stuff. What makes Greyd a benefit for those that are in that position? If Greyd is a benefit, you can tell me. I don't want to assume.
Mm-hmm. So Greyd is basically some kind of Swiss Army knife for WordPress. Whenever WordPress itself or WordPress, the community behind development of WordPress, stop at a certain point in the interface, for example, whether it's the new full site editing feature or something like that. At some point, it's always the same thing. Now you have to develop, for example, a custom blog, a custom element in your website or a custom section, because it's not possible currently in WordPress itself. And then Greyd comes into play, because we made it possible that a lot of missing features and functionalities, which normally would rely completely on code, with Greyd, they are exposed in some kind of interface. So a person with no coding skills, just a bit of technical understanding, can basically achieve much more when person is working with WordPress in combination with Greyd. This makes sense for you.
Yes. For me, it does. I can't speak on the audience, but I would assume that you explained it very, very well. I think the audience should be able to have a grasp of, one, as you mentioned, it being a Swiss Army knife. I think that was a really good way to put it. And two, that you mentioned the no code part. Those are keywords that I think that while we are describing, and while you were describing things, like I said, I think you described it very, very well, but I never want to make the decision of our audience. But I think that those two words right there really stick out. Just the no code part, the Swiss Army knife part. While we're there, is there another word or phrase that you would say, since we were going to borrow those two, we're going to highlight those two real quick about Greyd?
So I think one of the most important parts is that you can reduce the amount of different plugins you have to use when you build a website to a maximum. So you can reduce to a maximum, which sounds great. But I think on a normal WordPress tech stack, when you rely on like 10 to 15 plugins, normally you should get rid of like 75% at least, because we cover a lot of these functionalities, because we, for ourselves, back when we were just a standard web agency building projects, we were tired of having to mess around all the time with plugin updates, different interfaces and stuff like that. So we want to consolidate that. And that's why we developed the Greyd.Suite. First, for us, because we needed it. at our web agency days. And after a couple of years of testing and using it in our own projects, we released it out to the public because we thought, okay, so we had these issues. We're not the only ones having these issues. So let's release it to the public. Let's learn from our user base. Let's improve the tool even more, because we want to make the life of WordPress easier, and we want to give all the users now a head start for block editor and full site editing even, so they can start right away with the new basic or the new base, the new foundation of WordPress.
I think a head start is very much foundational. I'm glad you mentioned that, especially for people like in the categories that I mentioned. And just to repeat them, we're talking about content creators, solopreneurs, freelancers, people who are just kind of by themselves or maybe have one other person helping them. The last part I would ask before we move to the next segment is there support or a good amount of documentation, since this sounds like this could be a learning curve for people?
Yeah, so we have basically a online help center with a lot of tutorials, which so the tutorials go over the basic tool set, all of the blocks, how to use the suite itself, how to use a certain feature. So it describes each and every block, for example, what are the settings, capabilities, and so on. So you can master the basics for yourself, and you get a better understanding what is actually possible with each and every feature or each and every block. But this is only the base. After you master the base, then you can start getting creative, because then you can combine elements, combine blocks together to achieve different outcomes. So our help center covers the basics of the suite, and then, for example, we have as well, or we plan to give for more advanced users, like live use cases from projects, examples from pre-built websites. How did we achieve, for example, building a slider or building a custom post type section, which is completely automated. So for that, we still in the conception phase. We will produce videos for that. In between, we have as well a personalized support. You can just talk to our designers, developers, if you have a question, if you are not sure how to use a certain feature, because that's from our perspective like customer support, classical customer support.
Classical customer support. And speaking of, because you mentioned videos, I think that there, for the people watching or that are going to be watching you all, that would want to be able to watch you all, I'll put it like that. For the people that are watching videos more than anything, and that would want to watch you all, I think it's also good to add your YouTube channel. Yeah. And to be clear, because this is, we are clear here, you gotta look at, when you are looking up Greyd and you are searching on YouTube, you got to be careful, because I ran into the problem myself, not knowing that there were two channels dedicated. And you can correct me if I'm wrong, Thomas, but there are two channels. One is for your native language, and then one is for English for US users.
Yeah.
Is that about it?
Yeah.
Okay. Because that was something that confused the heck out of me when I first started looking myself into Greyd. So I can only imagine if there's anybody out there like me, even though I know I should be unique, one of one, but we all have common denominators. And I believe that based on our common denominators, I can see some people either kind of getting lost in that sauce. Not like looking at it for the first time and they're like, oh, okay, I guess they don't have English-based tutorials. No, they do. They absolutely do. They just have two different channels dedicated.
Exactly. So we have in our help center, we have the language option above. Then we have every tutorial in English as well. And why we did the German YouTube channel as well is a bit historical, because we started in the German speaking region, like in Germany, Switzerland, Austria first. Because, as I already told, we were a normal web agency and we switched sides. So from building projects, which we do, by the way, until today as well, but we're now software solution provider. So this is a journey even for us. And that's why we have all these tutorials as well in German, but we switched completely when we targeted the international audience to English. So from now on, even our main language on the website is already English. You have to switch to German, and we will do this for a help center and for all the tutorials as well.
Thank you. I appreciate you clearing that up, because I do believe a lot of times we are so spoiled, and if we don't get it easily, we just give up. Moving to our next segment, we're going to talk about some
Dope tech shit.
outside of Greyd already being one of the dopest tech shit, but we gonna move on to some other dope tech shit here. And what I have seen and when I have played with myself and utilized and learning Greyd, and that's the reason why I've made a video tutorial on our Iconic Templates YouTube channel, I was impressed, and that's why I'm calling it dope tech shit. So for those of y'all who are asking or thinking in your minds, well, why is it so dope? Thomas just gave you 3 reasons plus 10 more why Greyd is dope. But I want to move on to some other dope tech shit, because we got to talk about, you know, what's happening in the industry, what's emerging, what are technologies that people are using, whether in WordPress or outside of WordPress or alongside of WordPress, that affect our business outcomes.
Yeah. So what has come up with even more in the last couple of months, couple of years, are connections to APIs at the end of the day. Without the AI thing, it's just to connect several sources of truth with your WordPress website and use your WordPress website as a window to your customer, to your clients, hooking up different tools like in the enterprise segment, for example, Salesforce, HubSpot, Personio, some human resources platforms, whatever, or connecting like shopware shops into WordPress and stuff like that. So the whole API thing, I think it's much more important now than it was a couple of years ago, where we all thought, okay, connecting a newsletter tool into WordPress is the big thing. But now, more and more, like these big data platforms are more and more important, like Adobe DIM and stuff like that.
I think that's a good point. And for those of y'all who don't know API, because, hey, I didn't know it for a long time. I'm still learning about it, but let's just start off with the simplified definition, or the simplified acronym is Application Program Interface. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Or am I saying, okay. So I just want to make it simple. Everything technical these days, for the most part, is pretty much pulling or using some type of API in order to connect information and data with the interface, with the things that you see. But Thomas, how would you explain that, or is that a okay way of saying it?
It's a good explanation. But you, for example, if you have guys in the audience who already maybe have a WordPress website or think about building their own first website. If they're business owners, they obviously, for example, try or maybe have a YouTube channel as well. And for example, if you want to put in the YouTube videos, for example, onto your website, or if you want to synchronize all the YouTube videos to your website, synchronizing is a big part of the whole API connection stuff. So you need to make sure that you have 2 different platforms, and you have to make sure that these 2 people understand each other. Like an API connection is in a universal language. So I'm from Germany, you're from the US, we're talking English today. That we can understand each other. And the API connection is basically that. It's a unified interface where 2 different platforms can communicate with each other. Because an API connection is not only always one way, it can be 2 ways as well. So data from your website to another platform, and data from the other platform to your website, for example.
I love that. I'm literally doing that right now with our YouTube channel. Is I am literally using a plugin to push the videos that I upload and publish on YouTube to automatically pop up on our WordPress website as a draft post. That's API, right? Is that the way you're describing it?
Exactly.
Yeah. So now I got to get your take on, because this is the whole big part of this podcast, whether it's controversial or conflicting, or it's just, okay, I'm just pissed off, or you're just like, fuck that shit, however you feel, because it sounds like you're saying fuck that shit. What do you think is wrong with, or what do you think is right with, or what makes you indifferent on the topic of AI?
I think currently, when we're talking about websites, especially when we're talking about WordPress plugins or any other tool, the problem is that AI currently isn't used in the way it should be, because it's only used for writing text, giving you a SEO optimized text, giving you a narrative based text for your website, how to sell your product better. And it's used for creating images, but the part of creating images is okay, but more in a way that Adobe does it currently. So you can use it with your own creative ideas and just enhance it through AI. When we're talking about the websites and the AI plugins, what I would love to see is actually an AI solution which speeds up the building process, the conception phase. AI as a sparring partner who you can talk to when building a website, maybe giving suggestions for blog layouts and stuff like that. Some of the plugin developers already integrated some kind of AI-based block structure inside a page or whatever, but it's not there still. And yeah, AI is a difficult topic, because at the end of the day, I think no one of us in the current state of AI can imagine what's actually doable with AI in a couple of years. Yeah, and I hope it's not like in tools like, what's it called, this social media tool everyone is using for Canva. Sorry, yeah, Canva.
Canva, that's a popular one.
Yeah, it's a popular one, but you told at the start of the episode, you talked about it. So today, if something is complicated, people get tired. Everything has to be easy. Everything has to be fast. But with all these emerging tools, especially with AI, people tend to don't think about what they're doing. Does it make sense for you? They just push out content. They just push out websites. They just push out layouts. But the whole conception phase, thinking about the product, thinking about the use case, that comes short, in my personal sense.
I'm with you.
I mean, even if you use ChatGPT and you write text in and you have a chat, you always have to make sure that anything which comes out of the AI is true and makes sense. And that's the key part. We have to make sure that everyone who's using AI in this matter, he has to make sure that he reads texts he creates or looks at images he creates, that everything there is still true. I don't know how to paraphrase it otherwise.
You did good. I think that it sounds like, I mean, it was very clear to me, but my way of interpreting that is that with much power comes much responsibility.
Exactly.
And AI has given us a lot of power for output.
Yeah.
However, we've gotten lackadaisical or lazy when it comes to the input.
Yeah.
Education, it sounds like. Is that a way that you're saying it?
Yeah.
Okay.
That makes sense, yeah. I mean, look, Just look into some Instagram feeds, some YouTube feeds. If you search for the wrong videos or the wrong images, and you almost in a couple of clicks you're in kind of bubble where you get alternate reality information and stuff like that. It's completely crazy, and it's important even more nowadays that everyone looks at the content he has or the video or the text he reads properly, and he has to do his research for himself, because you always, or it's very difficult to make sure that this text you're reading or this image that you're looking at is actually real.
True. So for the men, women, and others out there, you got to do the work still. Even if the AI is assisting you in the work, you got to do the work, is what it sounds like Thomas is saying. And I am a big proponent, advocate, user of AI. I'm not an expert by any means. And my career path, I don't think that I want to go down the line of being an expert, because AI is just a general term. There are so many nuances. We can go into machine learning and large language models and all that other stuff that I know could lead us down a yellow brick road or a car crash. But I would definitely say that in my own experiences of using AI, it has 100% helped me be able to perform and produce at a rate I would never have been able to otherwise. And what I mean by otherwise, meaning I would have to hire 5 or 6 people to help me do that. And for my small business, it ain't a large business yet, y'all, but it's getting there. But for my small business, that's just not feasible. So what I've done is learn AI, and I'm still learning AI, but I'm doing it in a way to where I know that a lot of these outputs that I'm getting or tasks that I'm giving it, these are things that I had to do as, how I say, the manual way for a long time, and learn what that means manually before I put it in, how do we say, auto drive. So I mean, you tell me, Thomas, when you first started, you're like, okay, well, let me not assume. Do you drive a car?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. I mean, I know you're in the car right now. He's like, I'm in the car right now, Maestro. What are you talking about? But the people can't see that. They don't know that. But I'm saying this to say, when I first started driving, and you tell me what your experience was, I learned on stick shift. I did not learn driving automatic. What about you?
Me too. Stick shift. My first car still had choke. If you still know that. So, I mean, I'm 42, and my first car was way older than me.
Yep.
But I think I know what you're getting at. So yeah, you have to learn, and the first time I was using a car or driving a car with automatic, I didn't even could start rolling because I was constantly with my foot on the brake and thought, okay, why?
Yeah, the clutch. Yep.
Yeah. Same goes for AI. Definitely.
Same goes for AI. I mean, people need to get this. And that's why I want to use that metaphor, because I think me and you both know you're just a few years older than me. So I would definitely say you still got the youthness in you. But for the Generation Z and Y, they're not growing up driving stick shifts. Heck, these kids don't even have to learn how to parallel park.
Exactly.
So they don't.
That's the thing I was talking about. That's the big danger we're running into, because we need to make sure that our children, or the people after us, they have a proper, in Germany, it's median competence. It's media competence. So they need to know everything. They need to know what is true, what is wrong, what's real, what's not. And we have to make sure that we educate them, because nowadays you just consume at the end of the day. I'm from a generation. My first internet connection was a 65K modem. I don't have fiber or something like that. And I'm from a generation, we had like the standard, I had tapes. like MCs in my car.
What?
Yeah, I skipped CD completely. I went from tape to MP3.
You skipped a whole medium. Like that was a whole, like the CD was a big thing.
Yeah, yeah. For me, I did still love my tape, and I still have a tape deck in my living room, and I still have tapes. And my 5-year-old always comes, Daddy, what's this? And I always do the same thing. I do the thing with the pen, just rolling
Uh-huh.
out the tape.
It's that to her it's a dinosaur, or to him. I don't know if you have a daughter or a son, but
It's a son. Yeah,
I was to him it's definitely dinosaur type of
yeah,
like, what is this old thingy majiggy? Like they don't even know the terminology of it. And it's
exactly.
just simply a tape. It's just, it can't be more simple than that. A tape, right?
I mean, basically, the idea if one side has stopped, you have to make it. You open up the tape deck and you have to turn the tape. Why is that?
Yep.
For him, it's completely crazy.
Yeah. I mean, what? There's no turning MP3s. There's no turning streaming services. You just click the button and it goes to the next song.
Yeah,
It's like
exactly.
there's
And
nothing like that.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
yeah, yeah. I mean, but we are the generation we grew up with this, with the technology emerging slowly. But with this rate and this pace now, it's important that we educate our children.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I think that if you learned anything out of this segment, dope tech shit, is that our children have to be thought about as dope tech people. And with that, there has to be responsibility because they're growing up in a world of technology. And you can't really be dope or cool or as hip as you think you are if you still don't know the responsibilities that come with technology. And these kids they must learn this, and they must keep intact the tried and true, or the fundamentals that we have learned and our parents have instilled in us and their parents instilled in them. I think that that's very, very important. But outside of that lesson, you got to learn also that Thomas doesn't really give a fuck that much about AI. He's I know he uses it, but
Yeah,
he's saying
obviously everyone uses it. I use ChatGPT and all of
right.
that stuff. But for the tedious, boring tasks, so to improve the writing of a text block, some basic CSS, so all the tedious small stuff. Therefore, I use AI, and for new stuff, I always want to learn first for myself, and then I could give it to an AI. But AI does not make me lazy at the end of the day because I constantly want to learn new stuff, and the tedious old stuff, the boring stuff, the just manual labor stuff, that's okay for AI.
I'm 100. Me and you are on the same page with that. I can't think of anything I would argue against that thought process. And moving to our next segment,
It's just business.
I'm sorry. I'm really sorry for it was just business. I'm a professional.
That's what everybody keeps saying. I'm just a professional. Everybody keeps saying it.
how would you, or is there any type of story, something that you recently or in the past, a success story or even advice for, because we were talking about the kids and the youth, and even for young entrepreneurs or older entrepreneurs, it doesn't really have to be tied to any age group. So what would you say to those kids or youthful people that are entering into a world where they don't want to do blue collar work, and jobs are very scarce. People are not getting jobs as easily. And now we have all this AI and technology. What do you advise them?
I mean, the thing is, never stop learning. It's the most important thing. And for some of you or for some of us, even especially for me, it was quite difficult to do mathematics, but it's more and more important, especially because I think in a couple of years, a lot of us will, still have to learn, even in school, some kind of programming language, because that's, I think, the future. As you already told Maestro, the thing is that all these heavy regulated jobs, which has a very, very strict outline what these jobs are, they will be done by AI sooner or later. I think sooner, especially like the assistant jobs and stuff like that. And these are the jobs where young people, or we all, started in our career. So we started as an assistant and then evolved over time. But all these, don't get me wrong, easy jobs at the end of the day, but the well-regulated jobs will be done by AI. And the thing which will stay is like development, heavy stuff. It's like the creative part, because as creative an AI could be, it's still not a human brain. And the human brain has the best ideas at the end of the day. So my advice is never stop learning. Definitely. Never stop learning. I learn every day. Every day I make mistakes. I make them twice or 3 times in a row, and then I learn. And this will never stop. And don't get lazy and let AI do everything for you. First, you have to do it by yourself, and then you can give it to the AI.
So for you, and if you want to elaborate, if not, it's cool. But for you, it's really the learning piece that you say. Now, let me ask you this, and this is just kind of the last pushback right quick, because I'm just thinking from a kid's perspective, teenagers, not my own personal or anecdotal perspective now.
Yeah.
What if these kids are like, but Thomas, I'm in school. Isn't that learning enough? What if they say that kind of thing, since technically they got to go to school and they're being told to go to college? How would you respond to that if these kids or young adults are saying, well, we're doing all this learning already? What do you mean just keep learning?
I don't know how the school system is in the US currently. I know the system in Germany, which is basically, it needs overhauled.
Here too.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I think school today can teach you the basics, but you need to apply it, all the basics you learn in school, and this is the real learning afterwards. So you have to combine all these basic informations you learned in school, and then you come up with your own ideas. I mean, for me, a little side note, I was in Germany in school, and my first job was mechanic before I started to switch completely to the creative me, so to say. And then afterwards, I studied communications design. And I thought, okay, that stuff I learned in school, I never will need any more or any time in my life again. But still today, I always need basic math, basic English, all of these informations I need. So school is just a foundation. It gives you an idea how to learn new stuff, especially how to chew through.
I like where you're going with that. Like chew through the ropes. I was gonna say chew through the bullshit.
Chew the boring stuff. I know it's tedious. It's boring. Math can be boring. Physics can be boring. English can be boring. But at the end of the day, you learn this for a purpose. Later on in your life, you need it, and you need the basics, and you need to chew through all of that stuff, because that's, I think, the most important lesson. Not everything is easy, and it's difficult sometimes, but you have to pull through, and that you learn in school.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, I agree with that. I think that, that you have to chew through it. You got to chew through it, or go through it, or push through it. Sometimes you got to pull yourself through it.
Yeah,
force yourself through it.
There's especially when we talk about entrepreneurship, and if you want to start your own business.
Yeah,
I mean, you fail a lot of times. You make so much mistakes every day, every time, but you have to stay up and go through. It forms you as a person at the end of the day, because you as a person at some age, you're a combination of stuff you learned, stuff you experienced, stuff you learned to overcome, So this is you as a person, and that what school can give you is just the basics. And at the end of the day, what I mean with the school system needs to be overhauled. I mean, it's the teachers as well, how they teach different topics to their students. I mean, you can have luck and if a good teacher you like, but yeah, that's life at the end of the day. You need to
That's
chew through.
life. You got to chew through it. You got like a little rat gnawing on the little the cheese, or gnawing through your house, little hole in your house. You know, they're gnawing through the bread. You got to gnaw through it because look, they want to get that bread and that cheese, but they know they got to gnaw. They got to chew through the wrapper in order to get that bread. You know, and here I don't know if they use it in Germany or but you know, any other parts of the world. And I'm sure they do because culture is global. But you know, that bread, think of that bread as being the money. That cheese is the money, you know, and whether you're a mouse or a rat or whatever you want to call yourself, you got to chew through the packaging, the bullshit to get to the money. And that's what this segment, It's Just Business, is all about. But I'm going to say for Thomas's metaphor that, you know, it's more than just school. You know, and some people will say, well, they did X, Y, Z. Well, it's just business. Well, you know, sometimes business is personal and you have to personally grow in order to do good business. Otherwise, you can get stuck. So, yeah, that's what this segment was about is, you know, just giving people some insight on how they can improve their business. If they're looking to get into business or entrepreneurship, or even if you're a corporate or blue collar, you just want to advance your career, you still got to learn. Doesn't matter whether you're an entrepreneur or not. But I definitely want to thank Thomas for joining us on this episode for Meet the Plug WP. And is there anything, Thomas, that you would say or plug in that would be a great way for you to wrap up this conversation, or even wrap up your thoughts on how the year has been going for you?
2024 was a crazy year for me, both in the business perspective and in the personal perspective. I mean, this year my little one will go to school. He starts now. He's 6 years old. Will be crazy in a couple of weeks. Yeah, I think from a business perspective, we did make the biggest change in WordPress since the last 10 years, 15 years, when full-site editing was released. It's still a bit bumpy at the edges, and the community is changing a lot in the interface, which is sometimes challenging for us, especially because we extend the whole site editor and sometimes makes a headache, or how you want to call it. But it's an interesting time this year, and I'm looking forward to the end of the year when I can do a little recap what we actually accomplished this year. And for everyone who's already using WordPress, I suggest, if you're not using it right now, the block editor and full site editing, start to learn it, because this will be the foundation for the next couple of years, the next decade, whatever, inside of WordPress. Just imagine how long we had to work with the customizer and with the classic editor. And now it's the time of change. Now we should adopt to the new method or the new way to work on WordPress.
Time of change. And from what you just said, it seems that the block editor or Gutenberg or whatever you call it, and full site editing, it seems that it is the future of WordPress. It's the current state, but it's also the future. And you're saying that if you haven't already started with it, if you haven't adopted it, you haven't played with it, whether you're new to WordPress or you're a current user of WordPress, it sounds like you're saying people need to go in that direction. Is that it?
Yeah, definitely. Now it's because when we look at the next couple of years, or the next phases in the Gutenberg project, so we're currently in the transition phase. But this transition will be over in a couple of years, like 2 years or so. And if you're already an experienced WordPress user and, for example, you have an up and running business, and you have a workflow which works currently with like classic themes and classic editor, which runs well. Think about the next projects, the timeline of a normal website, which is like 3 to 5 years. Now it's the perfect time to learn the block editor and learn full site editing, because you can work both ways, the classical way and the new way. So you can do project the classical way if it's okay, and you can already do the first couple of projects the new way with a block editor and full site editing. And at a certain point, when WordPress completely transformed to the new way with full site editing and block editor, you're ready to go. You don't have to learn it. That's what I wanted to paraphrase or to tell.
Nice. For those who didn't catch that, I think he explained it very well. But basically, now is the time to dip your toes in the water, and you, at least for now, get to have a little bit of your cake and eat it too, even though we don't practice that here at Meet the Plug WP, or I don't practice that at all, because you typically can't have your cake and eat it too. But for lack of a better term, Thomas is saying this is the time where you get to have it both ways. And that may not always be a case. You get to have a little bit of both on both accords. And so you get to kind of ease your way in there. So that way you don't feel like you're just being overwhelmed with one direction. Thomas, where can they find you, and what would you want to promote or share with anybody as far as a resource? Or obviously you have your own tool, but anything that you want to plug in while we end the episode?
So first of all, where people can find me, obviously, if you're interested in WordPress, block editor, and so on, great. You can just book even a demo with me if you want to talk to me personally about our tool. Just go on our website. It's Greyd.io. And there is the possibility to schedule a meeting, to download the suite, to test it right away. Yeah, so I would look forward to talk to some of you guys. Sorry, Maestro, what was your question? The second part?
Yeah, the first part was you answered. And then is there anything you want to plug in that you want to promote? Anything like that?
I want to promote Jamie Marsland, actually, and his Speed Build Challenge. So if
Nice.
if you want to see two people struggling around building a website in almost 30 minutes, and yeah, you should watch it. It's hilarious. I was there myself, and for me it was stressful as hell. So if you want to see even me struggling to build a website in 30 minutes, or at least couple of elements of a website, and I mean, I build websites for now almost 20 years, so it is crazy.
And that's I believe a podcast, right? Or a challenge, something like that. I know it's on YouTube. What would you describe it?
Yeah, it's like a YouTube show.
Okay, show. Okay,
it's a show. So Jamie always picks two people beforehand, and they will be invited to the show, and they see a website for the first time, and they have 5 minutes to come up with an idea to build this page. And then you have to build it live, while Jamie is asking you stupid questions at the end of the day, and tries you to to bring you out of the comfort zone.
Yeah, throw you off your game is another way to say it, I would say.
Yeah, exactly.
That's good. That's good. Oh, I appreciate the time that you have given, towards supporting, me and my podcasting endeavors, and supporting this platform and this podcast in particular, but also in supporting what I didn't know until we met, because I actually went through a demo as well, but supporting my ignorance, and my unknowns and my questions, and just being there to show me even more of what I needed to learn or what I didn't understand about Greyd. And I think that you really helped support and still have done so even in this particular episode. But I'm just grateful that you have done that. So yeah, guys and gals, don't take what he just said for granted. I would take advantage of it in the positive way, because Thomas will be there. And if he can't, I'm sure he has other ways that he addresses that. But as far as I know, Thomas will be there and he'll walk you through and basically give you the information and the confidence, because that's important too. But he does both information and confidence to give you the, how could I say, the lay of the land with Greyd. And then from there, if you need more support, if you need a little bit more help, they have a whole team. So you don't just be bothering Thomas about this stuff, y'all. You know, you can start off with him, but just realize that it's not just him in the company. He's obviously ahead, top of the totem pole. And there's a couple other people too there, but they also have, other people that work with them as well that really relieve pressure off of them so that they can continue to do great work designing or developing or adding new functionalities. And they are, then don't take this for a grain of salt, or don't take this in a bad way, but they are often making updates and changes and fixes, not because things are bad or broken, but because they want to stay in tune with their users and their customers more specifically. And so just know that they're always moving forward, making changes, updating things, not just changing the whole interface. So it's not going to be like one day it's blue and the next day it's greenish or something like that. That's not what I mean, guys.
There are no breaking changes because that would be horrible.
But people do it. I mean, I know you know that.
Yeah, I know that.
So I had to plug that in there.
Say another motherfucking word and this shit is over. And I ain't playing, nigga.